Alright, HadesOmega here. So, doing a little vlog on my Mitsubishi Eclipse here. So, what I got going on is here, the GST failed smog last week. But I don't think it failed because the monitors didn't set. Like, I drove it for like a day, and that wasn't enough to set it, so I gotta drive it more. But one thing that what surprised me is that it failed the NOx. I think it failed NOx on one of them. It failed it, or it had a really high NOx. So one of the things that you want to look at for NOx is if your EGR valve, or your exhaust gas recirculation valve, is functioning properly. So I went ahead and took the EGR out. It's like right here. And to my surprise, I have a picture of it. To my surprise, it was missing a bolt. So I don't know how they got it in there when they put this engine had the head previously replaced or rebuilt because I guess the timing belt snapped. But yeah, so it was missing a bolt. So I don't know how the bolts actually kind of line it up, you know. So I mean, they must have had the line. They must have lined it up, and then what I'm thinking is like whoever put it back on, I don't see how the bolt could back out, you know. But it could have been. It could have backed out, and I have no idea how long it was like that. I've had this car for more than a decade, and it's passed smog before, so I don't know. Maybe it's not the EGR that's the problem. But anyway, it had a bolt holding the EGR on when there's supposed to be two bolts. There was like no bolt here. Alright, yeah, so I went and found another bolt that's very similar to that one. Yeah, it's this one right here. It's a nice one. It's got a flange on it too. So the good thing to do is if you have bolts lying around, to like start a bolt collection, you know. Like whenever I go to the junkyard, I take whatever bolts I can find, because these aren't cheap. You go to a hardware store or automotive store, and these will cost you $2-3, you know. And like they're perfectly fine. Like, I mean, you'll find perfectly fine ones at the junkyard, you know. If it's all rusted and stuff, yeah, well, maybe you don't want it. But so there it is. That's the EGR unit for the 4063 on a 2GB Eclipse. It's actually different than the Galant, I'm noticing. The Galant has an extra electrical connector to it that this one does not have. This one just has two vacuum lines going to it, and then the two ports that go to the intake manifold that the exhaust gas is in. And I have a little video on like how it works. It works very similar to the blow-off valve, except instead of exhaust, you're putting instead of intake, you're putting exhaust in. So it's hiding in there. You can see. It's very hard to see where it is. There it is. See. See before, and then it made it dark. Daggone, why camera, why? So yeah, you can see it's in there, the two ports. So what I've done is since I take it out, I might as well clean it, you know. So I cleaned it. This not super dirty. I mean, a lot of some carbon came out. That's to be expected for EGR, you know. I used a bore brush from M16. Not the bore brush, the star chamber brush from an M16 to actually clean it. It's a little bit smaller than the hole, but it actually worked really well. And then I shot it with some carb cleaner, and I scraped it with the pick. So pretty much how you would clean a gun. There you go. So I don't know. I'll tell you this: the EGR. I'm not a big fan of the EGR. It's supposed to keep your NOx down, you know. We don't want nitric acids or whatever. I think that's what the gas is. In our atmosphere, it would be not good for us to breathe. I don't know, man. It's dumb, but whoever thought of dumping exhaust gas into your intake, it's absolutely horrible, because it gums everything up. It's like shooting a gun, right? And then you have to clean it. So, but who cleans your EGR? You know, your your car doesn't clean itself, so you got to do it. So basically, I'm just gonna take this and run it through the ports, and then I'm gonna get a vacuum and suck it out, because I don't want all that crap coming out. Some of it will probably get in there. It'll probably just burn up in the combustion chamber. Yeah, so there you go. HadesOmega. Okay, so I kind of got my headlight out so you can kind of see better. You can see it. Pretty dirty. Yuck. Yeah. So clean it out a little bit. It's not super bad. If it would be really bad if it was like totally plugged up, but it's not. So it's still okay. But I'll go ahead and clean it. Okay, so I just got done cleaning the EGR. As good as I'm gonna get it from here, anyways. So like I said, I went and used the star chamber brush from M16, and I stuck it in there, and it didn't really help too much. But so if you kind of peek through here, you can kind of see EGR hole. There you go. So way down there. So you can see it is pretty clean. It's not as black as it used to be. Yeah, so it definitely a lot better than it used to be. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. I actually got some carb cleaner and I shot some in there and it helped. I saw a bunch of yucky fluid come out of the hole. So now I'm gonna go clean the gasket surface up with the Scotch-Brite pad real quick, and then put the gasket back on. I'll probably let all that carb cleaner evaporate first too. I know I made a big mess on the street. There must be like a giant puddle of carb cleaner under my car right now. Alright. Alrighty, so here's the EGR valve. So you can see it has this little gasket here. It's a metal gasket, so it's reusable, supposedly. Anyway, when I bought the Mitsubishi gasket kit for the Galant, it didn't even come with one of these, so I think it's you have to buy it separately or something. But so there it is. I cleaned it up. Everything's clean. The EGR is nice and clean, the surfaces, and I'm gonna go put it back on, and I'm gonna have to just, I don't know, I don't think I can get a torque wrench in there, so I'm just gonna have to like snug it. Like wait till it's snug and do 1/8, right? When in doubt. So you can see I've gooped up the threads with anti-seize, so like if I do want to take it out later, it won't take the threads with it. That's a good idea. Whew, okay, so I got it in there. I think the gasket is fine. I don't see the gasket hanging out anywhere. I'm pretty sure it's in the right way. I see the gasket in there. So like I had to like shoehorn that thing in there. As you can see, there's not a lot of room to work with here. Ideally, you'd want to take the battery out, but I have this small racing battery, so hopefully it helped a little bit. But I should have probably just taken it out. But I didn't want to disconnect it because I'm trying to pass the smog, so I need to keep the car plugged in. Yeah, so there it is. It's in there. I haven't hooked up the vacuum lines yet. All I have to do is tighten it. Yeah, so like I said, I have to shoehorn it in there. What I'm doing is I'm using this extension and the little. So you have to get the length like perfect, and then I'm using this because it has like this little swivel extension. To get it out, I actually have to use a cheater bar. I put a plastic pipe over this to make it bigger, longer, so it could break the bolt loose. It was really tight. So I think whoever installed it just like they said like, oh, I only got one bolt now. What do? I'm just gonna tighten it a whole lot. So I'm just gonna go tighten that. So it's pretty much, I've hand tightened it and I just have to tighten it with the wrench. I don't know, so I feel kind of off my game. So I adjusted the throttle cable because I thought it was kind of loose. Hopefully I didn't tighten it too much. But also I forgot to put this connector back in, and there was actually a vacuum line that I accidentally pulled, and if I not tried to tighten the cable, I wouldn't have noticed it. So got lucky there. So yeah, so I'm gonna go fire it up, and I'll show you this new gizmo that I got. But yeah, it was really hard to finagle it in there, and one of the problems is the oxygen sensor, not the oxygen sensor, the heater hose. Heater hose is in the way, so I have to move it out of the way. Alright, so let's go fire the Eclipse up. Hopefully it runs fine. There it is. Come on, check engine disappear. Okay, looks good. Check engine went away, and it seems to be running okay. I guess I'll find out if if I adjusted the cable too tight when I start driving it later, because the idle kind of high when it's cold.